Hello, welcome. This is Mr. Loria. This is Romeo and Juliet, Lecture 3. I'm going to focus on my man Romeo. I'm going to get through, hopefully, his ADDness, the balcony scene, the denying thy father, is he a man or not, the worst fight in the history of mankind, and the treatment of the poor, right? I sometimes tell my students that if you can tell what I'm thinking, I'm not really doing a good job when I'm presenting like multiple sides to a debate or an argument. Um, but I'll just admit right off the bat, I don't really like Romeo. I think he's an idiot. I'll try to use good words, but I don't. I think he's got tons of character flaws. I think he's essentially an immature teenage boy. Um, I'm not really sure what Juliet sees in him, but we'll get to her next. She's a much more interesting character, in my opinion. Um, Also, today there was a bunch of drama between these two boys about, this girl, of course. Right? They're 14-year-old, 15-year-old boys, and they're just. So I have low patience. So I'm going to rip into Romeo as a fair warning. Um, and let us begin, right? Wherefore art thou Romeo? Why are you Romeo? Why Romeo, right? Friar Lawrence in 2-3, for me it's 71, 72, says, young men's love lies not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes. Um, this is, this is a point that Friar Lawrence makes. I had my class vote, and it's interesting to see. I think most, we'll hold back on that, right? Does Romeo love with his eyes or with his heart? My class seems to think this, but there's a decent amount of that, so maybe I'm not being too unbiased. Anyway, we know he loves Rosalind. It's apparent from his conversations with everyone up until the moment where he sees Juliet. Boom, right? Light bulb going that way, right? I was so fixed this way. Now I'm so fixed this way, right? I don't really want to call him bipolar. He's very melodramatic. He's very up and then down. Um, he's kind of, if I had to diagnose him anything in the world of special ed, it would be ADD. Let's talk about the balcony scene. The soft footlight there on the window breaks. It is east, and fair Juliet is the sun. Rise for the sun and kill the enemy swing. Blah 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 blah. Right. The more I analyze it, the more I realize it's not that great of a love speech. You got this first part where he's like, oh, it's nighttime. You're like the sun. Rise for your sun. Kill the enemy's moon. Right. Cast off her vestal livery. Don't be a virgin. Then he gets into she speaks, yet she says nothing. What of that? And then you remember that he's hiding in these freaking bushes, right? He's basically stalking her. He's all quiet. Then he goes back into the eye thing and the spheres in heaven. And then, he ends with this, I wish I was a glove on her cheek, that I might touch that cheek. Right? Juliet asks him to deny thy father and refuse thy name. It's a big freaking deal. Romeo pops out and he goes, I'll take thee at thy word, right? Done. I'm in. I'm there. Okay, right? Runs over to Friar Lawrence. Friar Lawrence is like, you sure? Weren't you talking about that other chick a lot? But now you want to marry this one? All right, I'll do it. Not because I believe you, Romeo, because I want to end this fight between your two households. So, what happens? In 2-4, line 10, right? Mercutio and Benvolio are sitting there in the morning after, kind of rubbing their faces, doing all that. They don't know where Romeo's been at. But they do know that Tybalt has sent a letter. And who's the one that says it? 2-4. Is it Mercutio, Benvolio? It's one of them. Yeah. Right. Mercutio says, Is he a man to encounter Tybalt? Because Tybalt is a man, and he's an aggressive, kind of scary man at that. But notice there that they're questioning Romeo's manhood. Romeo in that scene, what happens? Yeah. The nurse shows up. He doesn't really stop his boys from mocking and sexually harassing this female messenger, right? He doesn't really do much to stop that. But that's a kind of a minor thing. Let's get to the dumbest fight in human history. This is the dumbest decision that you could possibly make the day after your marriage, I would think, right? I'm talking about right, the Mercutio, the scene where Tybalt and a bunch of other people bite the dust. Starts Act 1, Scene 3. And I pray thee, good Mercutio, let's retire. The day is hot. The Capulets are abroad. Benvolio's pointing out it's hot out here. right? When it is hot, people act the fool, right? But just think about it. Romeo has just gotten married. All he needs to do is just go home, right? Just start to prepare for a life with his wife and a night with her, right? Instead, he comes across where he walks into this fight, right? Tybalt's there, Mercutio's there, Benvolio's there, and everyone's posturing at each other, looking for a fight. Um, the honors are going back and forth, back and forth. Romeo comes in, right? Does Romeo help, or does he harm the situation? I think he harms it. I think he ups the level. He instigates everything because he's being, again, in typical Romeo fashion, very verbose, very up in the clouds. No clue what's going on Earth. No one understands what the hell he's talking about, and it gets out of hand. Um, one of my students asked today, what would happen, we were talking about the honor system, what would happen if you didn't answer somebody's challenge to a duel? I was like, you'd be considered a coward? Like, you'd be killed? Like, let's just say, like, you wouldn't last that long, boy. Let's just ask that question. Different world back then, right? So Romeo walks into this complicated situation and just starts going off about how he loves Tybalt, right? I love you. I love your name. You got to think, if everyone thinks he's mocking the situation, right? He might push it to the next level. Maybe everyone could have walked away, right? Benvolio has ended fights before. Benvolio seems to be a voice of reason. Then Romeo shows up, telling everyone he loves them, which I think is only taken as a instigation, right? And Tybalt, the reason I have to love thee, right? I see thou knowest me not, right? What a teenage statement. You don't know me, but I love you. Like, what? Like, and Tybalt says, boy, this shall not excuse the injuries thou hast done to me, boy, right? Therefore, turn and draw, right? Again, everything's getting worse and worse and worse. Mercutio's just had enough. Vile submission. Like, you can't just, you don't submit, Romeo. Now it's time to fight. So they start to fight. Romeo jumps in the fray. Because of that, right, his dear friend is killed. Right? Because of Romeo messing this up and getting in the way, Mercutio dies. Right? So who kills Mercutio? Is it Tybalt or is it Romeo? Tybalt stabs him, but if Romeo hadn't been there, Mercutio lives. Right? Period. Right? In fact, Mercutio knows this. If humor is almost always a psychological response to fear, to quote Sigmund Freud, sometimes it's, Mercutio employs it here, right? Tomorrow you shall find me a grave man. Like, I'm dead. I know this, right? And he's like, I was hurt under your arm, dude. Why did you do that? So imagine you're on your back dying. Your best friend is there. I was hurt under your arm. I thought it all for the best. Is Romeo's response. I was trying my best, right? Help me into some house, Benvolio. Notice Mercutio does not ask Romeo's help here. I want your help, Benvolio, not you. Romeo, you can go on a big speech about nothing for all I care. I need help. Right? He gets dragged off stage and dies. So why is it that now is the one moment that Romeo acts like a man? It's hot. You're in a fight, so your adrenaline is raised. Your friend just died. You're not thinking clearly. You're not thinking rationally. So when Romeo kills Tybalt, it's not really a rational killing. It's not an honorable killing. And in fact, look who he blames. Out of all the people in the world, of all the ways to excuse yourself, he says, right? Oh, sweet Juliet, thy beauty has made me effeminate, and in my temper sovereign valor steel. So again, he blames Juliet, a girl he's known for less than 24 hours, or, whatever by this point. Blames her. That's what's made him effeminate. Okay. I want to talk about 5-1. When Romeo was buying poison from the Apoca 3, or however you pronounce that. I think this shows, we've talked about this before, the effect of wealth on Romeo and Juliet. Romeo is a jackass, to put it lightly, to everyone who's below him and socially. When the servant in the beginning of the scene kind of has that script and asks him to read it, that invites the guest, he's a dick to that guy. When the nurse shows up and his men are mocking her and sexually harassing her, doesn't really do anything, right? I think Romeo's perception of people lower down on the socioeconomic scale than him is quite negative. 5-1 kind of hammers that in. Hire these horses. He knows he needs to he's trying to do something and he's using his money to do it. Banging on this, this beggar's door is shut. Goes to the dude who makes poison. Bang, bang, bang. Wakes him up in the middle of the night. Who calls him out? Come hither, man. I see thou art poor. Hey, poor person. I need some drugs. This is the middle of the night. I'm Romeo. Give me what I want. Right? And he's like, I don't really want to give him to you. And Romeo just hammers him. Famine is in thy cheeks. Need and oppression starveth in thy eyes. Right? The world affords no law to make thee rich. Then be not poor, but break it. Right? And take this. My poverty, but not my will consents. Right? I pay thy poverty, Romeo says, not thy will. I'm doing this because you're poor. Let's just be real straight. Not thy will. Wherefore art thou, Romeo? Why are you such an idiot? Aside from the fact that you're a teenage boy, I don't know. Right? That's my quick snapshot on Romeo. Sorry that I'm not really sorry that I ripped him because he's just a child. We'll talk about Juliet next, but we covered a lot with Romeo. His ADDness, his Rosalind thing. Does he love in his eyes or in his heart? This whole incident with Tybalt. The fact that this is the one time that he has acted as a man should at that time, I guess. And then goes and blames Juliet. And then the way that he just really just not so kind views on people lower than him in the socioeconomic class. All right. Questions, concerns, comments, send them my way. Andale pues. Shakespeare, baby. Only the finest.